if our country got atomic bombed, I would not shed a fucking tear right now.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
sorry to everyone else who's enjoying life, but for me, that would just be like, thank
Okay,
you.
if you're enjoying life right now, you're not a good person because that probably means you're like going out and being a
Mhm.
fuckhead.
But I'm looking forward to your birthday.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think people with weddings right now, like while it sucks with COVID, it's actually kind of nice because you can really trim the guest list and then
Yeah.
use that as an excuse.
Totally. I have not been perfect during this whole COVID thing, but I'm also like during my lapses where I like do something questionable, which has literally been like one time. I went to a restaurant one time and I was like, this is not a good thing. And I was like back in the summer. I wasn't posting about it.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not a, like the people that are posting like at parties, she was like birthday COVID edition, and it's like a big group of people. I'm like, what's birthday not COVID edition?
Yeah, she was posting like a whole bunch of pictures at like a giant ass party.
Seriously?
And I mean, like, I'm not surprised because she's a Republican.
I think I deleted her actually because like her stuff was making me really mad like back in the spring, and my therapist was like, you got to cut anybody out who's like doing that. But now it's like I'll have nobody left on social media besides like you. And like these are all the same people that are like the virus is bad and all this stuff. Today I like was eating my lunch and it like tasted like dull. Like the taste was there but it was like dull, and I was like no fucking way, cuz I have like been so safe, and obviously like now
Mhm.
I'm going to work but everybody's wearing a mask except for so many people just like this. Not over their nose. I'm like, "Honey, honey, what you doing?" Yeah, so I was like, I swear to God, if I have COVID, I haven't seen anybody besides Jack and his sister, and she's like super safe. So, but yeah, I think I'm fine. I think I just have like a cold
Yeah,
that's like messing with my taste.
I thought I had a cold, and I still kind of not as much of a cold, but I have like a lot of gunk in the back of my throat that just like is draining at night, and then I wake up in the morning with like a bit of a sore throat, and I'm like, where would that have come from? But whatever.
I've also been thinking about like, did you see Danny Cimarelli's video about like quitting social media?
Mm-mm.
So she like went 10 days without using her phone and like felt so much better and everything because she was like going through a rough time. And then now she's like deleted all her social media, I guess, and like feeling so much better. But then she's still like making YouTube videos and stuff. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I want to do that, but at the same time, it's like so hard because I'm addicted to my phone like everybody
Yeah.
is.
I could give up certain apps, but I don't think I could give it up altogether. Like TikTok is honestly such a source of enjoyment to me that like the idea of giving that up like makes me sad.
Yeah, it makes me anxious though. Like there are some videos that it's like you should be doing this and you're not. Like this is your sign to like go live the life that you want to be
Oh.
living, and it's just like I can't. I can't go do that. This is your sign to move across the country with your best friend. It's like, okay.
What do you want me to do?
I don't know. Sometimes
Oh.
it's just like any social media app where it's just like, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. Why am I not doing that? I suck.
See, I think my feed is like so curated that I don't get any of those videos. It's so like specific that I don't really get a lot of like random stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, I'm dumb. I've made the mistake of like liking certain like recipes and stuff because there's a lot of really good like vegetarian recipes on there, especially that I really do like and enjoy. But then vegetarian for some reason equals like weight loss. And so
Oh.
it's all this like health, like how to eat healthy and like what I did to lose 90 pounds and all this stuff. It's just like sometimes I don't need to see that because
Mhm.
my brain is automatically like, take note, bitch.
Yeah. Should we start
um,
the episode? Like
yeah, I
without
think
our
there's probably some usable stuff in there.
yeah, and like honestly, if not, should we jump in?
Let's jump in. Buckle up.
Because it's gonna be a long ride.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're gonna tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm MICHAE.
And I'm Katie.
And this week, we are covering Netflix's Bridgerton. That's the last time I'll try to do an accent. Everyone, I'm already apologizing for that. I loved this show. I am so glad that I watched it, and then that I texted Katie, and I was like, Katie, you gotta watch it. And Katie's mom had told Katie that she needed to watch it. We finally got down to it. Oh, wait, sorry. Before we get into this, I just thought, did you finish A Teacher?
Dude, yes. I am so proud of them for ending it the way that they did.
No.
That shit was fire. I feel like I
Mhm.
learned. And I was like,
So good.
bitch, you're the problem, because I was sexualizing their relationship and him, even though he's like not actually young as an actor. Like,
It really makes you look at yourself.
it really does. But I like always thought Claire was like dumb and bad. Like, I
Yeah.
knew in my heart of hearts that she was in the wrong, but I was
Yeah.
still rooting for their relationship.
See, that's interesting. With this show, I was not rooting for their relationship. I think because I didn't love Claire, I didn't really vibe with her, and I don't think you were supposed to, but it made me think about other student-teacher relationships, and, like, that is one of my favorite tropes to read in books, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Why?" I had to kinda think of myself, I'm like, "Why do I like this trope?" And, like, "Why am I always rooting for it?"
This is not an A teacher episode, but I do just want to say, like, I was bad mouthing Claire the whole time and being like, bitch, you're so stupid. But then I forget, it was like one of the last episodes, but when everything came out and like he was 18, but like everything had come out. And then I was like, just date,
Mm,
like, just date. And so then, like, prove everybody wrong. But then I was like, no, like, that's not okay. And like,
mhm,
she messed him up and like messed his life up and everything.
mhm. It was really heavy to watch,
Yeah,
those last few episodes.
because it was just like there's no resolution. Like,
No.
he's just
He has to deal with that, and I love that
yeah.
he had his little moment to kinda tell and just be like, "Stop trying to make me feel bad for you. Stop making yourself the
Yeah.
victim in this situation." Yeah, sorry, that made me think of it because when we decided to do the Bridgerton episode, we were talking also about A Teacher, and that's when we realized that we were both watching it, and I just forgot that we had never chatted after that last episode came out.
If you guys want an A teacher episode, let us know.
'Cause we would be more than happy to do so. That show was awesome. Okay, before we get into Bridgerton, let's check in quick. Katie, how you doing?
Like 2 episodes ago, I was kind of having a mental breakdown. We're still there, you know, but like for different reasons. I am now employed. So thank goodness I have an income. It is not large by any means. I don't have a job where I'm like utilizing my degree by any means, but it's a job and I'm happy about it. So thanks for all the good vibes that y'all have been sending. Pretty sure there's like some major things happening with my eyes. I got like some medicated eye drops today, but it's like fucking with my vision and I'm starting to get concerned. My taste is like not gone, but she's not like normal. What's going on there? I don't know. It's just always like the huge, like nothing's perfect. And I guess everybody always has something going on, maybe, but I just feel like I always have something going on. Where it's
Yeah,
just like, if it weren't for this one thing, it'd be great. How are you?
tragic. I mean, I'm sitting on the floor. So we're recording from the floor today because my laptop cannot be unplugged from its charger or else it
Oh,
turns
yeah.
off because it's trash. And we had redone, my mom wanted to repaint the office that I've been using ever since COVID hit. So we did that over the weekend and then we like shuffled some furniture around. So I moved my recording chair in there so that way I could like read in there during the day. Cause as y'all know, I live in a basement. So it's kind of dark down here, but that room has better natural lighting. Then I couldn't move my laptop in there to record tonight. So I'm laying on the floor. I mean, guys, what do you want from me? It's the same old, same old.
Yeah.
It's January 13th. Yeah, I really haven't done much. Work is same old, same old. Oh, one of my book series that I really like just got picked up to be made into a movie. At least like the first book got picked up to be made into a movie. So
Cool. What book
yeah,
series?
it's the Stage Dive series by Kylie Scott. Guys, if you look them up, the covers, don't judge them. Trust me, that's something that I've had to get past covers on books a lot of times are trash, especially romance books. These are trash covers, but it's really good. The series is really good, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. It's like a musician series, like each book follows
Mm,
a different band member, which is kind of what inspired me for my idea that I will not reveal on here because
yeah, keep it
patent.
under lock and key. I don't think anybody can blame us or like be mad at us that we lost our like new year, like fresh start momentum because y'all know that shit lasted for like a day and then we got
Mhm.
here to the new year of the pod and the new year of 2021 and we're just like, oh, and I like literally we don't even need to talk about it because
Everyone knows.
fuck
Oh,
this
you
shit.
know, all of those memes of being like, who would have protected the Capitol better?
Yeah.
I was watching Superbad today and I thought of Seth Rogen and Bill Hader, their
Oh
cop
my
isn't there?
god.
They would have done a better job.
All right, well, let's talk about it. Miss Bridgerton. So this is undoubtedly like the hottest show right now. It
Mhm.
broke records over Christmas. It came out like at one of the best times probably for it to come out because nobody was going to the movie theater or some people were, but fuck those people. Yeah, we were all at home for Christmas streaming. This show came out and it's super bingeable, only 8 episodes that go by very fast, produced by Shonda Rhimes. So you already know it's going to be a good one, based off of a book series with 8 books. And if y'all don't know, it's been picked up for 7 more seasons. So one season for each Bridgerton child.
Which I'm really happy about
Me too.
because that's what I'm saying when book adaptations are made. Like, you need to devote time to each book. So, like, whether it be like a book for a movie or like one book for a TV season. So, I'm stoked that they are going to do one, like, kind of, at least from what I understand and have read, they're going to do one following like the 8 books, which I'm very excited about.
And I'm happy that they're moving on to focus on a different Bridgerton because Daphne's story just kind of felt resolved at the end of this. And we can get into more later, like what we think the direction of the show is going to go from here. I liked Daphne's story and I loved this season, but I also am just like I don't feel like I need to see another whole season of like her and Simon's shit.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on to other people and like have that be the main focus.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see them like pop up,
Yeah.
obviously, like have them be mentioned and stuff. But one of the things that I think this show did so well was bringing such a great like group of characters in that you're already like getting bits and pieces of that you want more of, that they
Yep.
did a really good job of like laying those breadcrumbs down. So that way, when like next season comes and then it's Anthony's turn, like that it's not going to be like, I don't care about Anthony, like we don't know anything
Yeah.
about him, like you already are kind of invested. It's kind of like The Bachelor and Bachelorette, like you get invested in these people and then you see them again and then the next season, but the focus is on someone else. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
not, but like in history, you know?
And am I right in saying that there's really like no super well established like actors and actresses in this besides Julie Andrews who's narrating?
Yeah, I don't think so. I remember when I was watching the show, I was looking some of the people up. And first of all, I was like, Penelope's 30 something.
Is she
What?
really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
she's like in her early 30s. Same with Eloise. I look older than them. Like,
Me
I want their skincare
too.
routine. But yeah, I don't really think, unless if they're like popular, you know, maybe in the UK, in the US market, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but I didn't know if I was like being dumb and missing somebody. There have been rumblings that Simon, the actor who plays him, is going to be the next James Bond. So,
Yeah, I saw an interview with him saying that, and he was like, "Whenever you're British and do something that people like, they throw that around." But
yeah.
I could see it. He'd be a cool. I'd
Yeah,
watch James Bond if he was James Bond. I don't care about it otherwise, but
totally.
I liked him.
Do we want to do standout stuff?
Okay, I suck. I didn't put a specific person down because I just liked the overall cast, and that's a bit of a cop out. But genuinely, when I was sitting down, it's like I loved Daphne and Simon. I thought that like both of their characters were great and like well rounded and fleshed out. But then I also loved like a lot of the other Bridgerton children, like Anthony and Colin and Eloise. And then like I loved Penelope and like the parents, the opera singer. What was her name? Why can't I think of her name now?
Sienna.
Sienna. Like just genuinely every single character, even like the queen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't really think there was a character that even if I didn't really like them, like Penelope's mom, they're still like a good character, you know? I think that's kind of a cop out, but I didn't really have one that I would pick over the other. Like personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing Penelope and Eloise in the future.
Right.
But like I wouldn't say that they stood out any more than anyone else. I suck, but sorry.
No, you don't. You can just tell that it's one of those projects that just all fell together like really well, and they just
Mhm.
got lucky with like really good people.
It kind of reminded me a bit of Game of Thrones with like the ensemble cast where there are like so many great characters stretched across, where it's not like a few where you like pick and choose. Like even on Grey's Anatomy, where it's an ensemble, you kind of have your like one or two characters that you really like, and the rest you're all just kind of like, eh.
Mhm.
But Game of Thrones, like you pretty much love almost every single character. Even if you hate that character, you like love them. Where that's kind of how I feel like with this show. There's depth to each character.
I don't think this will come as a surprise to anybody because she's like my type of character that I always gravitate towards. It's Eloise. I don't know why I, sitting here in my committed ass 6-year long relationship, I'm always like, I love the bitch that doesn't need a man. I can't help it. Obviously, I just love her. I think she's awesome. I love her pursuit of trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown is and how that flips towards the end. Obviously, spoiler alert, everybody, if you
Oh
haven't seen
yeah.
the entire show. But yeah, and just how like at the end that flips around and she like helps Lady Whistledown preserve her secret identity so that she can continue thriving in the world without a man. And I also think what I love so much about her and her characters, like her relationship with the other characters, I find those relationships to be the most intriguing, I guess, aside from like Simon and Daphne, obviously. But I love her relationship with her brothers and how
Mhm.
like she's helping her, the second son. I don't even remember his name.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, they're alphabetical order, so it's something with a B, but I do not know.
Her relationship with her other brothers, and then her relationship with Penelope, and then the queen, and her relationship with Daphne, and just how that like explores the different types of women in this society that is like very dead set on like one type of woman. I just like how their relationship functions within that, how they kind of reconcile somewhat at the end, forgive each other for not being alike, and like
Mhm.
accept each other for being different.
And the second one's name is Benedict.
I literally never would have known that. I feel like they
Yeah.
never said his name.
I would rather do. I don't think they did either.
Trash.
There are just so many characters that it was hard to keep track of everyone's names. Should we do standout scene next?
Yeah.
Although, so I'm gonna kind of skip over this one because I know I'm gonna steal Katie's thunder because she snapped me and I like when she started freaking out about the scene, I'm like, I know exactly what scene you're talking about. So I'll kind of brush over it and I'll let Katie kind of go more into it. But it is in episode 2 at the end when Simon and Daphne decide to fake date and dance together. It's like a perfect scene. I got so many chills watching it. Just everything is working for it. I'll stop there for that. But then my other one, because I knew that Katie would have that one as well, was when Daphne and Simon were staring at that painting at that party. I can't remember what episode it was, but they're kind of like getting their feelings across to each other, like through this painting, like talking to each other and like
Yeah.
how they each view it and how they're like both attracted to the way that the other person's perspective on it is. And I just think it seems like something that was such like a novel trope, you know, like something that
Yeah.
you would totally read in a book, and to see it translated on screen was just cool. I mean, I loved the early stages of their relationship when they're like both don't want to acknowledge how they feel about each other.
Right.
And I liked that scene in particular, especially when they're like just reaching out and like brushing hands.
So much of this show feels like a book like being translated on screen, which obviously it is because it is a book being translated into a TV show. But so much of it reminded me of those old classic novels that you read in high school and college of like these characters that are very like gossipy, just the way that the characters act and like the little things that they say, or like when Benedict is talking to Lady Danbury about the art and he's like shit talking it, and then the artist is like right there, like that's totally something that would
Mhm.
happen in like a Jane Austen book. For
Yeah.
sure. The moment I fell in love with this show and realized that it was a good show, because like every show has that moment where I'm just like, it's a good show. But this was the moment when they had like already decided to do their ruse or whatever, but they're just at this party. They're like, okay, we need to pretend to have fun. And they like start dancing and they're clearly not pretending. They're having a good time together. And the music is just so good. It's perfect. And they're just enjoying each other's company. It makes me want to be at one of these dances and like that being like the social norm of like everybody just knows these dances and like shows up at these parties like super done up. And I also feel like I would not do well in this time and probably nobody would ask me to dance.
My dance card would be empty. I just love a love story, everyone. I mean, like, I feel like we know this, that like between Katie and I'm just like, I'm always not that Katie's never rooting like against love, but even like in toxic circumstances, a lot of times I'm still like, but they should be together. Like,
Yeah.
I am a sucker for a love story. And this entire show is this love story in high society. And like, yeah, there are other moving pieces, but like at the base of it, it's really just a love story. And I mean, I ate it up every episode.
And like the ending, just another like small standout thing is like the ending of the first episode with the music and everything and the fireworks. And that's when they like decide to do the ruse and everything. Everything's coming together, like the production design and the costuming and the score. Like it's just all amazing. I've been listening to this soundtrack because it's so good and it like makes me feel
Is.
productive and
It is really
regal.
good. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the reasons why, like, historical shows or, like, period pieces have never really been, like, my thing. I don't really necessarily gravitate towards, like, the old, like, costumes and dialect, and it's just not really necessarily my thing. But this job, it's so obviously a period piece, but it doesn't feel super old or boring that I sometimes find with those shows. It feels, like, fresh and relatable even at, like, a completely different time, and I think the music plays a huge role in that because it, like, has that old-timey spin to it of what you would hear back there, but they're covers of songs that you hear now.
When I heard "Thank You Next" being played, I was like, "No, they didn't." And then I, like, looked up the soundtrack and I saw that Bad Guy was on there. I was like, "No
Yeah.
fucking way."
So good.
So
Whoever decided, like, that that's what they were gonna do, that was the direction that they were gonna go in with the music, A
that's
plus.
such a neat
Job well
touch.
done.
A couple people have, like, asked me about this show and if it's good, and how I describe it to everybody is that it's a combination of Gossip Girl and Pride and Prejudice, especially when I was, like, early on in the season watching Bridgerton. We can talk about it, but it's kind of like 2 different tones. The first half of Bridgerton is, like, one way, and the second half is very, like, 50 Shades. So,
Oh,
we can get into that, but I would still describe it as a combination of Gossip Girl and Pride and Prejudice and maybe like a touch of 50 Shades or like more than a touch of 50 Shades. So obviously like the mysterious gossip writer that influences the plot and narrates the show is like Gossip Girl to a T. And I don't think that's lost on anybody. And I'm pretty sure the creators of this show just like leaned into it. It's based on a book too. So like whatever. I think Simon has really Chuck Bass energy and he's like distant and unloving and rich and titled until he meets the girl who like changes him. And that's the exact same as Mr. Darcy. Surprise, surprise. Every man and everything is rich and stupid and horrible until he meets the girl.
and moody and
I'm that way forever.
yeah.
But yeah, and then like gender discrepancies and relationships and young women and older men, very Pride and Prejudice. And like marriage as a transaction is something talked about in like all of the Austen books, but yeah, like showcasing the social season again. I just got very like Pride and Prejudice vibes from this whole thing, which I love Pride and Prejudice, so I loved Bridgerton. But I think Bridgerton is its own thing. It's very like set apart from, because there's been multiple things that talk about this time in European history and like the social season and like marital relations and how that used to be back in the day. The choice to reveal who Lady Whistledown is.
I want to talk about that.
I was not expecting that at all because I haven't read
Mm-mm.
these books.
It's revealed in the
Obviously.
4th book.
So Gossip Girl, if you've seen it, I haven't seen it all the way through, but I know that Gossip Girl isn't revealed until the very last episode. And so to know who Lady Whistledown is, I thought we were going to be like not knowing that for a long ass time, especially knowing that there's 7 more seasons.
I'm kind of surprised that they did it. I'm kind of surprised. I'm also kind of not. I'm not surprised because if you've read the books, you know who it is. So then it's like, it's kind of spoiled already. But like even Pretty Little Liars, the books were out there and like people knew that Mona was A in the books before the TV show was made. Like again, and they waited a while to reveal that. So I guess it's like if it's already out there, you know, why not? And I guess if they weren't sure if they'd get another season out of it, then they were probably like, well, we should maybe like announce this just in case. But they had to have known that it was going to go over well. Like I mean obviously there's always a risk of it going out, but it's like they had everything in place for the show to do well that I feel like they probably knew that they were going to get a second season no matter what. That I don't necessarily think that that was like their reason for putting it in, was because it's like, oh no, well what if we don't get a second season and we can't ever reveal it? I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how they play. I hope they don't like then like, oh, we find out it's obviously at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show, I'm about to say who it is, but at the end, so when it's revealed that it's Penelope, I hope then that like next season they don't try to do some like, oh gotcha, like kind of fake out kind of thing, especially since that's not what it was like in the books.
Yeah, or if there's like multiple Lady Whistledowns or like any of that bullshit, we don't need it. Like keep it as Penelope. And then obviously the sex and steaminess of this show sets it apart from a lot of stuff that has come before it, especially stuff that like depicts this time, because we normally just see the like
Fade to
chase
black.
and the stuff before they get married, and then it's all like whatever, hopefully they figure it out like in Pride and Prejudice. But in this it was like, okay, now she has to figure out what a dick is.
It highlighted, first of all, how uneducated all of the girls are in this, which is atrocious. But I mean, it is what it was at the time. Like, and even still now today, like, I feel like, you know, people can still wander around and not know anything. I give them props because you know what? It's based off of romance books. You can't then not just put that, or you can't like cut all of that out for the show. So I was here for it. I'm like, if you're gonna go there, and they definitely did. And I mean, thank you. Honestly, was anyone really mad about it? Maybe if you were like watching it with your parents or something, but
I think it's easy to like maybe not see it coming, because it does start off as like a normal show with like your random sex scene like thrown in here and there, like with Anthony and his pursuits. But then it just like really started. It went there. Like we were watching porn all of a sudden, which I'm like not being negative about it. I was here for it, but
it was shocking.
It was shocking. Should we get into the steaminess, or?
I mean, we're there now. Let's just jump into
we're there. I feel like this is wilder than 50 Shades. I'm gonna just be straight up. Like, I know that they're not hitting each other and shit. Back when 50 Shades was coming out, it was like such a big deal. And now this is just completely surpassed, I guess, besides like the BDSM stuff. And I don't know many on-screen couples who had this many sex scenes in such a short amount of episodes. And it's also like an entire sex session, which is another thing that like sets this show apart, I think, from others. Is like normally in media, like movies and TV, you get like the beginning of sex or the after, like,
Mhm.
of sex, but you never really see it all the way through. I mean, you do sometimes, but not like this. Like, and maybe there's one time where you see it all the way through and it's very quick.
Mhm.
Catch my drift. Like, so, mom, maybe not this episode
I
if
know,
you're
I
listening.
know. I know my mom's gonna listen to this episode. And maybe Kelly and Mary, if you guys just wanna, like, maybe fast forward a couple of minutes, that
Yeah.
that make Katie and I feel better.
Anyways, yeah, it's like every scene, every sex scene in this was like the entire
Mhm.
sex session. I don't know how else to describe it except for the montage where they are like having sex multiple times in a montage. That's like the only time where it's not like start to finish. But
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, we're seeing the entire thing right now. And then
yeah,
it happened again. I'm like, we're seeing the entire thing again. And I wasn't like, what is happening? Or like so much sex. But I was just like, damn, this is
yeah.
crazy. And nowadays, it's like, what can we do to set ourselves apart? There is a million streaming services, a million fucking
Mhm.
shows. I never know what to watch because I'm just like, there's so much. So when people are like, Bridgerton, watch Bridgerton, it's like, oh, I wonder why everybody is loving Bridgerton. Oh, it's basically fucking porn. But like, no shame. I mean, you got to do
No.
stuff to like set it apart. And these scenes do aid in this relationship and aid in Daphne's storyline and development as
Yeah.
a character. So they're not just throwaway like scenes.
I support it in the here. I mean, like, Katie and I are very, like, pro-sex positive on this podcast anyways in, like,
Yeah.
media. So but I support in this, like Katie said, because it serves a purpose and, like, it's never obviously, it's, like, all out there, but it never feels, like, objectifying in a way,
Mhm.
like, of Daphne or Simon, like, it's not really, like, hypersexualized in a way of, like, we're looking at them, and there are, like, shots in 50 Shades even where it's, I think, a little more, like, "Oh, look at how hot Jamie Dornan is," and stuff, where, like, in this, it doesn't feel like that, it just feels like a couple, like, growing in their relationship, and also, I just think it's important since it is based off a romance novel, like, that is a huge part of, like, historical romance and just, like, the romance genre in general is,
Mhm.
like, obviously a love story, and, like, this is a part of that.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I'm like, if you don't want to include, like, sex in a love story from a romance novel, then, like, maybe just don't do that story. Let's talk about Game of Thrones because I think that was kind of the first show that was really like had graphic nudity in it and like pretty graphic sex scenes, but even that is like nowhere near this. Game of Thrones, it's not like I'm trying to think of like relationship progressions, and it's like whose relationship did it really like progress that much in this show?
Right.
Where like this with Daphne and Simon, it's a different level.
Yeah, and I think not that like if you don't feel comfortable like watching stuff with sex in it, you're a prude. Like totally
Mm-mm.
no, like watch whatever you fucking want to watch. But we do, I think, as a society, need to move in a direction of like being comfortable talking about sex when it's appropriate and like addressing it when it's appropriate and like what we see in this show where the mom is not even comfortable talking to her married daughter about what goes on and she's literally about to like go off with this man. Can you think of how many women just had no idea, and like young women, because women were being married at such a young age for a lot of the time, like transactional
Mhm.
reasons, to people that they may not have wanted to marry
Yeah.
or who they didn't like, or like how many gay women or how many gay men struggled during this time. I just, it
Mhm.
breaks my heart. And so when I applaud Bridgerton for treating people of this time period like real people, because
Mhm.
I think so often when we talk about this time period, which it's not like people talk about it that much, but books like Pride and Prejudice, when you're reading that, it just feels like a character, which it is, but this is a real time period where people actually existed and like had sex like we do now. It's so easy to like disconnect that reality, but it happened. And so I applaud Bridgerton for bringing it up, even though this relationship that's being examined is like a loving one. There were so
Mhm.
many that weren't. And that's
Yeah.
sad. That's heartbreaking.
Showing too, like, through Eloise and Penelope's character, and Daphne too. Like, Daphne was so unprepared for like how children are even made. And then is her name Marina, Penelope's cousin? Is that
Yeah.
her name? When Marina is pregnant and Penelope and Eloise find out, and they're like, how did she get it? Like, how did that happen? And they're like trying to figure that out. Or then when Simon and Daphne have that conversation about their own self-exploration, and Simon has to like explain to her what that is because like she doesn't even know. She's like, these girls
Mhm.
were not taught anything, and then they were just like married off and just expected to basically follow the man's lead and whatever. And that's so harmful, but it's like how the time was. I think we do need to talk while we're on this conversation about episode 6, about the scene that has a lot of people uncomfortable. Like, people have been calling it a rape scene. I kind of want to get your thoughts on that, Katie. So, from the book perspective, I know people were interested to see how Netflix was going to handle this scene because in the book, so I should say this, I have not read the book, but I watch a lot of book YouTubers. And one of my favorites covered like the whole Bridgerton series and talking about like that, comparing it to the show and kind of like what was the same, what was different. And she brought up how they were going to handle this scene. And in the book, Daphne gets Simon drunk, and then until he passes out, then she like gets him up in his sleep and then like has her way with him and
Mhm.
figures that out. So it definitely feels much more rapey.
Yeah.
It feels much more like an assault in the books, I
Yeah.
think, than maybe what was portrayed on screen, which I get why they didn't show it like that on screen, because I think
Yeah.
everyone would have turned on Daphne in an instant. But also, it's still a really uncomfortable scene
Mhm.
because I just think like if you would have flipped that around, and like if Daphne would have been the one who said like I don't want kids, and then if Simon were to be the one to like get on top and then like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
pull out, like people would have been outraged. And like I do think people are upset about the scene, but I just couldn't, if the genders were flipped, like, or
Mhm.
if the sexes were flipped. I'm trying to be better about like saying that because it's not like if the sexes were flipped, like I think that would be like people would maybe be talking about it a bit more. But it is like an uncomfortable scene, and I'm just surprised overall that they included it. I get it that it's such a big part in the book and like it's such a catalyst for their relationship for the next 2 episodes, but it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable, and just like his expression and like his eyes. And I think it totally would be received differently. Like there's no question if the sexes were flipped. But for people to like excuse what Daphne does because like he's a man and he's enjoying it at first, like
Mhm.
obviously consent can be revoked at any time and from anybody.
And he says no in the scene. I believe he says no.
Yeah, well, and you can see it in
Um,
his face, and
yeah.
she
She
knows
knows
where
what
he
she's doing.
stands. And there's a fine line when you're creating stuff like this because you want to be authentic. You want to show that this relationship is flawed
Mhm,
because of the lack of communication. Like Simon should have been like, this is how babies are made, and this is why I'm like pulling out every time.
mhm.
I'm not trying to like excuse the behavior, but I just am acknowledging that there's like a fine line that creators walk trying to be like authentic, especially with a period piece. I don't know. I feel like I'm being offensive right now. Rape scenes like don't have a place anymore because they're like unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm like the right person to say whether or not this is wrong. But I think any moral person knows what she did is wrong.
Mhm.
And I hope to God, like impressionable 16-year-olds aren't watching this, but obviously, like, can't control that. They probably are.
Even like we're how you said like that you don't think you're the one, like it's not up to us to say if it was right or wrong to include it. It's more just like to talk about the fact that it like was included,
Yeah.
and kind of Daphne was like so uneducated, but then in this moment like she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
So it's like she is naive, but also like in that moment she's aware of it, but also it's like does she even know about consent? And like that's not an excuse, but again, it's like if she doesn't even know what happens between a man and a woman when they get married, or at this time I'm using man and woman, obviously not like now that we're
Yeah.
accepting of all, but just saying, like, at this time, like, she didn't even know that that was a part of, like, marriage. Does she even, like, know about rape? Like, is that even, like, something that she ever had a conversation about? Probably not. Does that excuse it? No, because she should know that, like, when her husband says no, that, like, that should stop, but I think it's a messy, murky situation on the show, like, with the time period, with Daphne, with Simon. I it's just yeah.
Yeah. And I did honestly get a little bit like, I was kind of over it, like this relationship, because it got to the point where like just fucking talk, like just communicate and this will all be resolved. And that is the whole basis of this, the main issue that they have like in the second half of the season, where it's like,
Mhm.
I want a baby, I don't, and now we're trapped in this marriage because we didn't talk about it. And it's like,
Because we decided to duel.
yeah, people struggle with communication now, but back then, when every word and thing you said and did had to be so calculated because of like your image and everything, communication was a huge issue. And then like men and women are so uneducated about like how each other function, and like just the sex relation, like the relationship between the sexes back then was just like not great. I don't think like
Mhm.
men had a very good understanding of like women and like the like complexities that women have, and vice versa. I don't know.
I think in her mind, she doesn't see it as doing something wrong.
Mhm.
Where, like but again, that's getting muddy because 'cause I'm not trying to excuse it. I genuinely don't think she's viewed her actions as wrong until, like, after, and then she maybe regretted it. But I don't know. I mean, guys, overall, Katie and I are not excusing Daphne. Obviously, it was wrong and, like, it was rape. So, like, I feel like we just need to put that out there that, like,
Yeah.
it was. With the time period and stuff and the way that it was portrayed in the show, I think it opens, like, a conversation as to, like, why it was included and what it did for Safney, for is that their couple name? For
There you
Daphne and
go.
Simon.
They need to communicate. That's always the answer to every relationship problem on this pod.
Mhm.
Fucking Hardin and Tessa, communicate.
But where would be the fun in that, Katie? Where would be
I
the
know,
fun in
right?
that?
It's crazy how Daphne and Simon go from both feeling like they trapped each other in a marriage because of a childbearing issue, then going to the childbearing issue being the issue going forward. I don't know. I was just like, I'm over it. Just have a kid or don't. Like, I don't know. It's not that deep, but it is, obviously.
Just real quick, one thing that I wanted to note, I don't really know how this fits in anymore. But I'm a sucker for a trope. Tropes are there for a reason, they work for a reason, they sell things, and if they're utilized well, they're really successful. And I think the show did a great job of really utilizing the fake dating trope. Everyone loves a fake dating trope, and it makes for great content. And on top of that, they had to throw in a brother's best friend trope, which I love almost as much, or which I love a fake dating trope almost as much as I love a brother's best friend trope. And the entire premise of the show was just on point for me for that. And I think a lot of people who read the books also appreciated that those tropes were like really flowed over very well and very like highlighted in the show, as much so as they were in the books.
And I love the moment fake dating and then having to prove that it isn't fake, you know?
Hmm.
In the Hunger Games, that whole thing. Obviously, it's like more, there's a longer time where they have to like prove that they're not faking it. But in this, when Simon is confronted with the queen and has to like tell her,
Yeah.
and that's like his real feelings. And I agree. I'm a sucker for that too. It works. And
Some tropes.
like, you know that they're going to end up together. You know that they're actually going to end up liking each other at some point. But it's just like the fun of seeing how it happens, how
Mhm.
we get to that point. Going back to the sexes stuff in this, the way women were treated during this time, the show does such a good job of like talking about that, but it's not too heavy-handed, I don't think, where it's just like constantly being like, see how women just suffer and all this stuff. They just show the inequalities as they are and then they move on. Like, they don't dwell on them or anything. It's just like, this is how it is, and as women they just had to accept it, and we as an audience do too, and just like move on. Like, you can't expect it to be resolved or like have justice come to those things because they didn't. during that
Yeah.
time.
They
So
bring up that, they bring up, like, the issue between classes with, like, Antony and Sienna, and how she's like, "This is literally never gonna work." I also love that she was realistic about that, as much as I'm like, forbidden love, I love it. I'm
yeah.
like, she's very realistic about that, and also with race too, when Simon and his aunt or, like, she's not really his aunt, but, like, kind of his aunt, his mom's best friend, when she's like, "They wouldn't even, like, accept us until one of them fell in love with one of us," and, like, they just
Mhm.
very briefly bring that up and then just, like, keep on moving, that they acknowledge these important issues of the time, but you're right, you don't, like, sit around and, like, they're trying to solve it and stuff. They kind of are inkling towards maybe, like, Benedict and that artist, and how, like,
Yeah.
that artist is married, but he was caught with that other guy,
Yeah.
that maybe in Benedict's I don't know, I'm gonna just assume that the book did not go that way, but maybe they included that for the show. I don't know for
Yeah.
certain, but maybe if they're gonna kinda, like, introduce that a bit. So they're touching on a lot of things that obviously we have since, like, evolved on, or I would hope that we have evolved on, but, like, not as far as we probably think. But you're right, it doesn't feel, like, heavy all the time of, like, weighed down with these huge issues. It kinda moves along to get more into the story event.
Yeah, and for me, that made me, like, acknowledge it even more because I
Mhm.
was just like, "Okay, yeah, this is, like, a good not even a good relationship, they have their issues, Simon and Daphne, but, like, thank God she's in love with this dude." Like, think of
Mhm.
how many women or men or anybody didn't love the person that they had to spend the rest of their lives with. Like, how many people were depressed because of that? Like, it's just so sad to think about. Just imagine being a woman and, like, your entire life is riding on who you
You
marry,
marry.
and, like, who you marry rides on your looks first and foremost, probably, and then, like, your personality or, like, your fake personality where you, like, try to impress and cater to this dude.
No, it'd be like wealth and, like, your family standing.
Right, and that too. But, like, the wealth gets you in the door, and then because, like, Sienna, she's not even, like,
Mhm.
a consideration. So if you're in this, like, wealthy family where you're trying to, like, get married off, I just, like, if you're lucky enough to be that type of woman, you
Mhm.
still don't even have that much agency, like, whereas men, like, it's based on their skills and, like, what they know and what they do. And, like, Colin, how he's trying to get married and they're like, "He's so young," and Daphne's like, "Bitch." And they're like, "It's not the same." It's like, that's so gross. Like,
Mhm.
she's 16 or something.
No, she's
Like,
21.
is she?
Mhm.
Okay, well, still,
Still young.
there were probably women back then that were like 16, and then men that were like in their 20s being considered too young to marry, and then the women
Mhm.
are like 16 and like go and get married, you know.
Which I was surprised. I did look that up because I didn't think they'd ever said Daphne's age, and I was shocked when it said 21 because I was assuming, like, she was probably, like, 17, 18.
And like that dude that was trying to marry her at
Ew.
first, that was
So
like, unless
nasty.
you've already like had your way with her and like I don't want her if she's tainted and all this stuff. It's just like,
Get
um,
out.
and then all these dudes are like gallivanting around and they all know what sex is, but none of the women do. It's just disgusting.
It's so unfair.
It is so gross. And like I
But
know that
even
this isn't how things are now, but like back when we had our first like sex ed in 4th grade or whatever, like boys and girls were separate. So like I didn't know what a boner was until I was confronted with one, honestly. Like, I'm sorry, but mom, I swear to God, you better not be listening. But seriously, like the lack of sex education is still an issue.
And even the concept of virginity and, like, how it is in relation to guys, in relation to girls,
Get the
like, get the
fuck
fuck
out.
out.
Get out with that.
I like,
Anthony
this is
bothered me with that when he's like, "You will marry her because you stole her innocence." It's like,
get out of here, buddy, but you can
bitch.
go out and be with anyone you want. It's just it's so unfair, but also that's what we see today, like, how women are slut shamed, but it's, like, men just being men. Get off of our backs. Like, let us do what we wanna do.
Yeah, and
Ugh.
Marina, like everything with her character and how she bears so much of the blame and like Penelope kind of demonizes her and is like, poor Colin. It's like, bitch, no, not poor Colin. I mean, yeah, it's like not good that she's
I do feel
lying to
bad for
him,
Colin, but
but also
her getting
like
so upset.
is in trouble. Like, what else can she do? You know?
Have her marry the crusty old guy? Like, no, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like women taking agency over their own lives, and of course they're the bad guy.
I agreed with Penelope that I think it was unfair for Marina to try to lie to Colin or to try to like, haha, gotcha, like into a marriage. Like that is not okay. But at the same time, Marina doesn't have a lot of choices. So like
Yeah.
I get her becoming desperate and kind of being like, well, what can I do?
Yeah, I guess poor Colin. I'll go back to saying poor Colin, but I just at the
But
end of
also
the
like poor
day,
Marina even more because
yeah. And the way like that one maid like made that comment where she's like, "Well, maybe you should have thought of that," like when they were like locking her in the room.
mhm.
And she's like, "It's your own doing that you're in here." It's like it's two people's doing actually. And where
And
is his accountability?
And how much you want to bet Marina also was not aware of how a child was made, but there was a good chance that the guy knew that that was how a child was made. Like, we're going back
Exactly.
to the education of the women.
Okay, so once it's revealed that Penelope is Lady Whistledown,
Whistledown.
obviously I'm like, bad bitch alert, bad bitch alert. Like she's doing it. But then I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh shit, Penelope, you are a bad bitch. Like you're naughty, you're bad because you did that to Marina. You freaking outed
Mhm.
her. And I kind
Mhm.
like that's when I kind of started to know when she was like so upset and like crying to Eloise. I was like, she either like knows who Lady Whistledown is and told her, or like gossiped about it and knew that it would get to Lady Whistledown, or she is Lady Whistledown.
But, like, it ended up kinda working out for Marina, like, getting to go off with the guy's brother. I mean, like, granted,
Yeah.
that's not the most ideal situation, but also, like, she would have ended up in deep shit with Colin, eventually.
Hmm.
No, Penelope, you're shady for outing her. That would be like if Katie or I, like, I mean, we're closer than Penelope and Marina were. You don't do that to your friends. But I do like, I feel bad for Penelope because like, she loves
Hmm.
Colin and, like,
Yeah.
she wanted what was best for him, and then when Marina kinda went off on her being like, "It's a fantasy," I'm like, "Marina, I get your point. Penelope, I also get your hurt." So it's like, I can't like, they're both wrong. Like, there's no right person in this situation, which I think is kind of what makes it, like, a good conflict, is that
Yeah.
you can see it from both persons' side. I it does just make me excited because this is kind of one of my questions of like which child you're most looking forward to seeing a season about moving forward. And I am so excited for Colin and Penelope's season. I mean, I'm really excited for Eloise's and Antony's too, but like I think Penelope and Colin's season is going to be really cute.
I'm excited for that. It's just weird because like I can't see Colin's season like packing the heat like this season did, you know? Like that relationship just seems so like cutesy and like whatever. So I feel like now that he's going away, like he's gonna like grow and be like more get some more oomph to him. And then Penelope is now that we know that she's a bad bitch, Lady
Mhm.
Whistledown, we're gonna get more like bad bitch vibes from her.
I know. It makes me think of that one TikTok sound that
Yeah.
choke me like you like it's that high pitch and then it's like choke. That
Yeah.
one, that's what I'm hoping that Colin goes away being like, "Oh, he's all like cute and so nice." And then he comes back and he's like bad bitch alert for him.
Yeah.
I hope so. But and you know, okay, thing about heat level wise, Anthony's season is gonna be
Yeah.
it's gonna be spicy.
Yeah, and obviously I'm super excited for Eloise's season, but I
Mhm.
feel like it's gonna be kind of sad because we're gonna like have to watch her be in this social scene that she doesn't want to be in.
Yeah. Do you want me to spoil anything about Eloise's story or no?
Mm, you can.
So I guess in the book, she actually ends up getting married to this one guy who has a couple of kids, and like that's how she like develops the relationship with him is like through his kids. He's a widow or something. But so that she kind of like casts off the social circle and like starts this relationship with these kids and this widow and ends up going about it that way. So
Huh.
I'm interested on seeing that if they do it that way. But
Yeah. I don't know. Part
oh,
of me feels like they won't do it that way because like of her character, just the way like I read her character in this one.
I'll be interested to see what they keep moving forward. I mean, as I said, like I haven't read the books. I'm not into like historical romance. I've never tried one, so maybe I should try these books and give them a shot. But at least for the most part, it seems like they stayed pretty true to the story in this one,
Mm.
which I appreciate.
Well, they did say like Daphne was like, I know you'll make your own way. And like, I want to see Eloise eventually make her own way. And like,
Mhm.
she can have love. Obviously, we've talked about that before. Like, women can be a bad bitch and have a man
Mhm.
applauding their bad bitchness. But I
Wonder
want to see her like I want to see her make her own way because that was like put out into existence. Just like Arya's character, it's like,
Mhm.
she is told in the first season like you're different than the other girls and like you are a good fighter and warrior and like you will
Mhm.
be a good fighter, and then we see her at like that satisfaction at the end of the eighth
Mhm.
season, like she is.
I don't think any show has done it like Game of Thrones of showing like the different kinds of like badass womanry across different characters. Cause like Arya, Sansa, and Dany are like so all such powerful women, but in such different ways and like feminine in such different ways that it's like, oh, there's
Yeah,
really one for everyone.
I agree that no show has like done it like Game of Thrones, but I think like Pretty Little Liars, I loved that show
Uh
just because like they were all so awesome in their own way and they each had their own thing that was like special about them. And in this too, like I like how Daphne is like, I want to be in love and like I want to have a family and like that
like
doesn't
Eloise,
take
you
a
shouldn't be mad at me for that.
yeah, like that doesn't take away from my strength as a woman and like just the person that I am. And then
Yeah.
Eloise is like, I don't want that. And Daphne kind of gives her like some flack for not being part of society and like wanting
Mhm.
to be part of it. But then it's like, that's who you are and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So,
I like their relationship. I just like the sibling dynamics throughout this. Even like Antony and Daphne at certain times, obviously like when he turns into a jackass about the like you will marry the crusty guy and it's like get out of here, dude. But like from his perspective again, it's like what he's doing is wrong, but like I get why he's doing it, which is like I just want to understand the motivations behind characters' actions and like it makes sense. So like yes,
mhm,
while I can like disagree, I also like can't disregard like why it's not coming out of nowhere. Like
yeah.
this is his responsibility. It's like how it is in the time. And then I like the like protective instinct of like him and knowing like how Simon is and trying to like protect his sister from that. Like you can just tell like he genuinely loves his family and like feels this big burden to take care of his mom and his other siblings.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine though, like your son being like, "You're my responsibility, mom"? I'd be like, "Bitch, I wiped your ass." Like, no, you are. I am not your responsibility. Like, I am my own woman. I
Yeah.
just like did not like that scene when he was talking down to his mom. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Ugh, get the fuck out."
Especially when the mom's, like, pretty decent. I mean, mine is her, like, sending Daphne into her marriage super unprepared. Like, the mom's a pretty decent mom, better than Penelope's mom.
Yeah, and she's like wanting her daughter to marry for love. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think there's a fair amount of like pretty privilege in this. Like
Yeah.
Daphne kind of. It's just like, there's too many men that want me. It's like, okay, bitch, cry me a fucking river.
I made a call out to one of my former teachers last week on the pod, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I'm doing while Daphne's over here complaining about a duke or a prince.
Yeah. You would think that she like has it made right off the bat when the queen deems her like the diamond, but then obviously like
But it
it's
shows
just
how that's
tough being a
her.
woman.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard being a woman period, no matter what woman you are in this time.
Women can't win, man.
We can't, but we also do win because we're superior. One like last thing, I think just like the dramatic change in tone of this when it goes from like high society, like these social gatherings where like it's this very like calculated dialogue and interactions between all these people to like raw, fully butt naked like sex between these two people. Like it feels like two different shows and two different Daphnes, sort of,
Mhm.
because it is this like sexual awakening for her, but also I think it's so true to the time. Like you went from being you have like this innocence to then so quickly being like a married woman in married life, and like everybody around her knows about that and they're like, oh, they're enjoying married life. It's like everybody knows it's going on but no one is
Mhm.
talking about it, and like maintaining this weird delicate society where like nobody talks about sex but everybody, like the purpose of all these interactions is sex.
Mhm.
Like that's like the major elephant in the room at all of these like dances and everything, but like half the people at these dances don't even know that.
No. There's no, like, gradual progression through it. It's, like, 0 to 100.
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, and, like, in this case, it's a, like, awakening and a very, like, easy-ish transition, like, Daphne enjoys herself and is in love
Mhm,
with the man that she's with, and it's, like, a happy thing, but
mhm,
it also makes you think, like, this is the same thing that happens to all these women who most likely do not feel the way that Daphne feels about the Duke and
mhm,
vice versa. I mean, the Duke is so he knows that Daphne is like inexperienced and he knows that he needs to like go slow with her and like walk her through it their first
mhm.
time. So
He's really
like
sweet.
yeah, like he is aware of that whereas I think obviously like these men, other men might be aware of that but like not take the care. And most
Mhm,
likely didn't like back during this time. So I think that's like what this show is doing, having that like very innocent half of the show and then the very like crazy
mhm.
sexual other half. But that's how it was. It went from 0 to 100 so fast.
I don't think we really talked about Simon's character at all, but and like we don't I don't really have like too much to say, just that I really liked his character and like his character depth and the backstory that we got on him and like why he is the way that he is. I really liked him. He felt like a very well fleshed out character when there was like so much focus on the Bridgertons. I feel like there was still a lot of time and attention paid to Simon so that when he like acted the way that he did, it made sense.
Right, yeah, they needed to have that strong backstory for him because otherwise this like consistent argument in their relationship that's making their relationship so dramatic would
Mhm.
not work and it wouldn't be believable at all. I think knowing how much trauma he's storing because of his childhood is
Yeah.
the only thing that makes him not wanting to have a child believable.
And I think the fact that we get that decently early on, it
Mhm.
like you get to build up on that. That was something that I remember learning in one of my fiction classes was unless if you're writing like a thrill for like writing, then unless if you're writing a thriller and you need to like reveal this plot twist at the very end, like reveal your secret or your character's secret by like 25% of the way through, because otherwise your reader will get bored or else it like won't click as well. And I always thought, I'm like, does that really work? And then I was reading this freaking book that I just finished last night finally, and it was 551 pages, and it was just long. And within like the last 20%, so at like the back half, at like the 80% mark, this dude is unloading like this emotional baggage. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like, we should have
Yeah.
had this way early on. Like, and it's not even like there were a lot of red flags. It was just like, this is just not working for me. And I'm like, you could have used the advice of like, we needed to know about Gabriel's shit at 25% of the way through. Even if Julia doesn't have to know about it, like, we should know about it.
Yeah.
But like, we find out with her. And I was just like, this is just, it doesn't work. So I'm glad that we found out early on. So we knew that motivation all along with Simon rather than like
Yeah.
us find out with Daphne.
Yeah, because we know that backstory with his abusive father, and then we also know how much he loves Daphne because
Mhm.
Daphne is the one to like make him change his mind about never marrying. So we know that he loves Daphne so much. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to have a child with her? So
Mhm.
knowing, like, having that very intense look back on his childhood from like his birth to his like early childhood, it's
Yeah.
important.
His dad just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, from the first time we meet him, like, ripping him from his mom's arms or, like, before she could even hold him just to show him off to a crowd, it's like, "Get out of here." "It's a
Bogus.
boy!" "Oh my god, get out of here."
Yeah, whatever. Well, so did you know that Penelope was Lady Whistledown like the entire time?
No,
When
I
did you
didn't.
suspect then?
Like the last episode. I thought it was too obvious that it would have been the tailor. Like, I kind of thought that earlier. Like, maybe if it was her, like when they were at the shop and Marina was speaking to her in French, I'm like, oh, maybe it's her. But I'd say like the last episode, and you're right, like with the whole Colin thing, like that felt weird. I don't know. I was still like pretty surprised though when it was
Yeah.
her.
It was just like I was surprised that it was being revealed and then I was like so
Hmm.
happy that it was her. But
Yeah.
also I was like, oh, Penelope, how dare you?
I think it makes sense. So, yeah, I liked it. I think if it would have been like Benedict, it would have been like, "What?" But I
Yeah.
felt like it's like a good reveal. It was like when Cece was A, it was like, "Give me a fucking break." Like, at least it
Yeah.
wasn't like that. It was a good one.
somebody mentioned that like Lady Whistledown is obviously like raking in the cash. Do you think Penelope is like raking in the cash? Is she doing it for free? Is she gonna have the ability to like help her family?
I don't know. I guess I didn't really ever think about that, but yeah, her family's like broke now.
Yeah, her dad just got
So
shot, or I don't know
yeah,
what happened to him. Probably not shot, but
R.I.P. sir.
he's a
Yeah,
piece of
I don't.
shit.
He was. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that'll be interesting because, like, how can she reveal to her parent or to her mom then that she all of a sudden has a bunch of money? Especially because
Yeah.
Lady Whistledown is not necessarily like worked in their favor.
Yeah, she's like talk shit about them.
So I don't know. That'll be interesting how she goes about that, or if she just like doesn't say anything. If I was her, I would be putting that aside to set myself up well and then dip in. Or I would be like, Mom, stop putting me in yellow dresses. Like, I guess that's a thing in the book that like her mom always makes her dress in yellow, which like is not flattering on her. And I'd be pissed if my mom constantly put me in yellow. That'd make me very unhappy.
Yeah. Who do you think the heir is of the Featherington fortune? Like, because that was like left on a cliffhanger.
I almost thought Marina, just because like it would kind of be a slap in the face for
That would be
them
funny.
to be like, we treated this girl like shit and then now she holds all of her money, so then if they had to like kind of grovel to her. But otherwise I didn't know if maybe it would be like one of the Bridgertons or something, like one of the Bridgerton boys, maybe like Anthony or something. He was entrusted to a male obviously over a female, even if not in his family at this time. I don't know. What are you theorizing?
I don't know. I feel like the Marina thing is a good theory. For it to be left to a woman, like, wouldn't really make much sense. Like, it might
Yeah.
be her father, so then they have to go live with her.
Oh, snap.
Or like just somebody else that they don't know that like has to come and live with them, and it's gonna be like a
Mhm.
new character next season.
If it's supposed to be a character that's already established, like those would be my best guesses. But if it's a new character, I don't really like that because then it's
Yeah.
like not all that surprising. It's not like, oh my God. Also, real quick, were you not like when Marina's like, it's done, I took care of it after she drank a cup of tea? Were you not like,
I know that was a thing back in the day.
really?
Like people, yeah, used to like do abortions with some
Herbs?
ingredients. Yeah,
Mm.
some ingredients, but they obviously like weren't effective and would be like very dangerous. But yeah, I don't know.
I'd never heard of that. So I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I thought she was dead when Penelope like went in and found her, and I got really sad, but then I was glad that she was okay, and then I'm glad that the baby's okay too. But obviously, like I also just feel for Marina, and she should have
Mhm.
been able to terminate her pregnancy if she wanted to, but obviously that wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
So
And that's a topic for a whole other time.
we've already had that discussion.
Yeah.
Everybody go to our unpregnant episode.
I just want to say that like I'm glad to see more like novel to TV show adaptations because I would kind of hope that's where we're like taking it in the future rather than movie adaptations for books.
Yeah.
Is certain books it works for it. And like obviously the Hunger Games and like Harry Potter and like those instances worked out very well. But I do just think that with streaming now and all of the different services, it's just opening doors for more book to movie to TV show adaptations, and there's more room for it. And I really want that content. I mean, obviously, I could think of like 100 books offhand that I think would make great content for TV and streaming. And I like that it's a romance genre that got picked for this and like that it's successful. I think like romance gets a lot of shame when it's like the most lucrative genre in the publishing industry. Like romance makes the
Mm-hmm.
most money and it's like the most popular, so why
Mm-hmm.
not adapt it? And like clearly it worked, so I'm just happy to see it. I'm glad that it's done so well.
There's been like a lot of talk lately about how women are not allowed to like anything because anything that
Mhm.
women like is immediately deemed stupid, like boy bands or Justin Bieber or the Beatles like used to be considered dumb, and then when like other people started when men started liking it, it was like, oh, they're this amazing band, like
Mhm.
revolutionary. That's way off topic, but I think that's what you're saying about like romance being like looked down on and stuff. But it makes the most money because people love it, and people obviously love this show. It's very conflict driven and multifaceted in the conflict department. And you can
Mhm.
see both sides to most of the conflicts. And like you said, I love that. So it's a good show, y'all.
Yeah. the whole argument of, like, whenever like, women start liking something or, like, teenage girls, it suddenly sucks. And it's
Yeah.
like teenage girls know what they're talking about. Like, teenage girls have taste, okay? Like, there's a
Yeah.
reason why they like the things that they do, and that whole argument is just so sexist, and
Yeah.
get out of here
If
with
you
that.
go back and listen to One Direction, like there's some really good songs and it's like really good music. So
There was an interview that I saw. I mean, again, I don't actually talk about them that much on the pod, but Katie knows that I like love 5 Seconds of Summer. And I remember this one interview that I saw with them. The interview asked, like, what's it like having like a primarily female fan base? And my man Ashton was like, why does that matter? Like, teenage
yeah.
girls know what they're talking about. When they like something, they're passionate about it. And like, they are responsible for trends. So like why would we be upset that like we have a primarily teenage girl fan base? All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to our Bridgerton coverage.
Yes, next week we have 2 guests at the same time. So hopefully that goes well. Andrew and Meredith, they're the creators of the new movie The Promise of the Butterfly, writer and director, and we are so excited to have them on next week's episode to talk about that. You guys should go onto Amazon Prime and watch The Promise of the Butterfly this week. In preparation for that episode, we're going to talk to them about their filmmaking journey and their partnership and what they're up to during these COVID times and the making of that movie and everything. So
It's gonna be super cool. I'm really excited for it.
yeah.
As always, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you go to our podcast homepage and subscribe so that way we show up on your feed every Monday when we release new episodes. If you are on Apple Podcasts, make sure you also go to our homepage there and subscribe and give us a rating and review. That helps us out a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that way you get notified when our new videos come out. Check our bio for all of our Twitters, Instagrams, TikTok. Popcorn Chats is a TikTok. We both have TikToks.
Yay. Wear a fucking
I think
mask.
we did it. Wear a mask and stay the fuck home, people. I'm so sick of all seeing your crusty ass faces outside.
You do not need to go to an Applebee's. I promise she will be there when this is over.
I mean, oh my god, wait, guys, I forgot to announce RIP FamVid. We were just
Oh my
talking like 2
God.
weeks ago on the podcast about how FamVid was still going strong. As some of you know, I've worked there for I've worked there for 6 fucking years, Katie. Can you believe that? 6 years.
I've been dating
I've
Jack
spent
for
there.
6 years.
That's wild. So yeah, so I did work. I think I probably worked my final shift there last week ever, and what a ride, man. RIP the end of an
Fucking
era.
shout out. Shout out. That is so
FamVid.
sad.
I know, you've been so good to me. Alrighty, everyone. We will see you next Monday.
Lalas.
Lalas.